So in this episode, let's discuss an authentication company that came to us with a requirement for doing usage-based.
Now that we put y'all on game, make sure you remember who we are.
So their primary value metric is the number of logins and authentications that they do for their customer. So the pricing itself was not that complex. It's not about the pricing flexibility that Toway can offer that we spoke about in the previous episodes. There were other complexities in how they wanted to handle, right from collecting the data to processing it and also handling payments and being able to speak to multiple different systems, both internal as well as external systems.
So both engineering operation optimization and financial operations optimization is the key.
Yeah, exactly, right? So how do you collect data from different sources? That's essentially an engineering problem. And then finance teams are also responsible for collections and how do you automate that process, right? So both were challenges that they were looking to solve for and automate the end-to-end stack.
So what are the various metrics on which they price today?
So the primary value metric is the number of logins, number of authentications that they do for customers, right? So essentially it can be a successful authentication or a failed authentication, but for them their value metric is overall number of authentications. And also since they do authentications via multiple channels, right? So it's not just say for example a token based mechanism can be one, right? Then they do an OTP SMS based authentication, right? Then they also do WhatsApp based authentication, and then email based authentication. So all of these incur costs for them, right? So they wanted to basically provide this as a seamless pricing model for their customers where they just say number of authentications and per authentication I will want to charge my customer.
So it doesn't matter which mode the end customer uses, but the overall total count is the relevant metric here.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, although we provide the capability to track this at a granular level, for them, they wanted to simplify this for their customers. So it's just the number of authentications. But what this provides a challenge here was, so for example, this is something that resides in their internal system, right? Now, what I mean by that is like if they want to just authenticate if some user is valid or not, that will be there in their system. But an SMS-based authentication, the source of truth is with a telecom provider that they are partnered with, right? So that's an external system, say some telco, right? And then they have WhatsApp for which the data resides with Meta, obviously. And then they also have email-based mechanisms where they store it in a different form as well, right? And this is the highest chunk of authentications that they do, because of which the volume of emails that they process is very high, and they would not want to use it as a real-time tracking mechanism, right? So this will be more a file-based mechanism, right? So essentially, this is how they are looking to track and meter their product. So this is the first problem statement, right? So the first problem statement, let me just list it down here. The first one is data sources, right? Multiple data sources. How do we pull data from all of these things? Now the second challenge is coming to the collections aspect. Since they are serving a lot of small customers, right, like early stage companies as well, and also the aspect is since they work with external vendors for sending out SMSs or WhatsApp messages, they incur a cost for doing all of that channels, using all of those channels. And they don't want to be giving out a lot of credit for their customers, because if they do a monthly billing, a postpaid billing model, and if their customers end up bombarding suddenly 1 million SMSs, then they end up bearing the cost for that. And if the customer does not end up paying it, they have to manage that, right? So the credit management part is something that their credit or collections management is something they wanted to solve for.
So basically, this is advanced payment collection, correct?
Yeah, so that's a solution that we actually think we can come up with and propose to them, right? So there are multiple ways you can solve it. So one, if you're doing a postpaid mechanism, you can essentially solve this in the form of dunning. Like what that means is you can send out reminders periodically, but that still does not solve the working capital issue for them. Like you said, having an advanced based mechanism is much better in this case, so that they don't have to bear the cost and of sending out SMSs or WhatsApp messages.
Are they pretty clear on whether it should be usage credit or currency credit that should be managed?
Yeah, so they were very clear that this is something that the finance team is going to manage, the collections aspect. So they wanted to be tracked in terms of the dollar figure, right? So because the finance team has access to the payments from their customers, and they wanted to just record it and forget it. So it was essentially a currency credit.
Yeah.
And the additional aspect here was, again, like you had multiple data sources, the finance team also works with multiple third-party systems where they manage the collections differently for different segments of customers. So there is the self-serve model where they have a payment gateway integration with the local payment gateway. So they do have 2 or 3 payment gateways that they work with in different countries. So if the payment gateways automatically use, customers pay that and the advance gets collected. The second one is a manual wire transfer or an ACH bank transfer, which is something the finance team handles.
So this is applicable for a slightly larger organization.
Yeah, so this is a different segment of customers, right? And here finance team, when they do it manually, they don't want to be changing their existing workflows. What that means is they want to record that information in their existing tool, which is an accounting software that they use, and have that getting updated in our system or Togai system instantaneously.
Yeah.
And then we have the third mechanism where they also don't want customers to stop using the platform, right? If the credit balance goes below 0. So what that means is they also want to give customers the ability to automatically recharge and fund their account with an additional advance amount without even them having to take that effort, right? So auto recharge facilities is something that they were very keen on as well. So broadly, these were the problem statements that this company was looking to solve for. I think we can dive into the solutions.
In this use case, they just have one usage meter, but the source of this usage meter is from 4 different places. One is their internal system, which powers their token authentication. So we can create an event schema with just authentication occurred as the event name, and the payload can contain the dimension mode. Even though this is not used by them, this is just to keep track now, so that in future if they want to provide some analytics on top of the various types of payment modes that they provide, they can do it. This event schema can be used to directly ingest the events whenever an internal token is generated by the end customer. Then comes the second use case of SMS being sent to via a telco provider. So since the volume will be very high, telco providers typically have the ability to give out the event level SMS details as a file. Most of the telco providers that we have worked with have the ability to publish it to a S3 bucket.
Yep.
We can use that capability to ingest events to these auth occurred event schema and provide the ability to auto sync this SMS flow. So first is the API based event ingestion. Second is S3 sync. Then third is WhatsApp. In our experience, we have seen people upload the usage files from WhatsApp's business portal, where it is generated at the month end, right? So, or it is available in a daily basis as well. So the CSV import capability of our system can be used, and the file which is downloaded from WhatsApp can be directly uploaded to ingest the auth occurred events via WhatsApp. Then comes the email, right? So the volume will be very high. So here we can directly bypass the event flow and directly go to the usage meters. So typically we would have created the number of events, number of auth as the usage meter, right? So we have the ability to ingest direct usage statistics to the usage meter as well. So customer need not go through the event pipeline to achieve the target metric if they already are aware of the usage units, right? So that can be used here. So their output from the email pipeline will be the customer and the number of emails that they have consumed in a daily basis or an hourly basis. So that can be directly inputted as the usage units for number of auth usage meter, and direct events can be recorded here. So this solves for various sources of raw data in their system, and now Togai will be the centralized system for their usage data points.
Yep, I think you touched upon 2 or 3 interesting aspects with regards to this solutioning, right? So the first one is having an event schema essentially provides us the ability to consume data for a single value metric from multiple sources, right? So you have an API based ingestion, or you have an S3 bucket based ingestion, or you have this file based CSV import, right? All of this can go into a single event schema where the raw events can be taken in and sent to Togai, right? Then we have the second aspect, which is you can also send aggregated metrics directly to Togai for the same set of usage meters that are configured from the schema. And this can also have an input as a database, for example, right? You can write SQL queries and pull, say, the number of emails. So if somebody is already storing the raw data somewhere, you actually remove the need for duplication of data. Like, is that understanding correct?
Yes, in the usage meter units ingestion as well, we support all modes. You can ingest units via API, you can do it via S3 sync, and we additionally give the capability, as you rightly mentioned, pulling data from an external database. Right? So any database that supports SQL protocol and can accept connections via JDBC URL, we will be able to connect and pull data.
Got it. That's great, right? And then the third aspect is also, I think, one important point that you touched upon is you don't need to actually price everything that you send us, right? So in fact, you can use Togai to track the usage of your product. Like for example, in this case, while this customer is not differentiating pricing between different channels, but if they see that there is one particular channel which customers are using a lot more of, they can actually understand that, track that, and then be able to price it at a later point in time as well, right? And also run analytics on past usage data. That's a very interesting point, right? Like decoupling the pricing and price plan is what I mentioned as PP here, essentially the decoupled aspect. That's great.
So since they have explicitly mentioned they want to manage currency credits, we have two capabilities that we offer in Togai. Let's go through each and understand what fits better for you. So we have the credits system and the wallet system. Credit system typically is granted when the advance payment is given is given as an option to the customer for a higher reward, right? For example, the customer can pay only 80% of the targeted bill and they get the 100% value of the bill. Or as a marketing promotion, they just give out free credits. But in this case, it is a pure collections problem that is required to be solved here, right? So $1 paid by the customer should equate to $1 of future usage that they can use. For this, we can go with the wallet system of Togai, where each customer will have a corresponding wallet. So this wallet will have a running balance. So as and when a payment is recorded under this wallet, this balance will be incremented. And as and when a usage is computed and a revenue is computed, the balance will be reduced. So this keeps on going forever, and at any point in time, the customer's current wallet balance can be found. This way, our customer can look up each customer's wallet balance and decide on whether they can provide the service to them, provide the service to the end customer, or ask for a wallet recharge.
Got it. I think this should solve for what their use case was. So essentially what you're saying is we maintain a ledger of transactions, right, from whatever incoming payments I've received and net it off against ongoing usage based on the actual customer usage data, and then show them a near real-time wallet closing balance based on which customer can decide whether to give access or not.
So the same system also has a capability where if this wallet balance is below a certain defined threshold, we can initiate a payment request to the end customer, and this number is configurable at a customer level. So the threshold can be configured, and the amount of payment that is supposed to be requested to the customer can also be configured. This way, even in a small customer base, you might have a spectrum of customers with paying capabilities, usage capabilities, and so on, right? So every single number here can be customized, and a payment request can be sent to them, so that their auto recharge capability is addressed here.
So I wanted to clarify one thing, right? So here, when the customization can be done by customers, does it mean that, say, this authentication company can provide a capability to their customers to decide what should be the threshold to recharge? Is that something that is doable?
Correct. So it depends on the user experience, right? Both the authentication company can decide at an individual customer level, or it can be an open channel between their end customer as well, right? So it depends on the user experience that the our customer want to provide to the end customer.
Got it. So everything can be automated using our APIs.
Correct. Both the threshold and the recharge amount.
Okay.
Right. So this will actually trigger the auto recharge request.
Okay.
Now comes in the payment gateway integration for the self-serve manner, right? So this will actually create a payment request in the wallet system, but it will not be accounted for in the wallet balance. Once there is a webhook coming back from the payment gateway marking that that payment is successful, then this payment amount will be credited into the wallet balance and the balance will be incremented. So their payment gateway integration is solved for here, and we have the ability to talk to different payment gateways based on the configuration of a customer. Let's say a customer is purely based out of India. Their payment gateway can be configured as Razorpay, and for US customers it can be configured as Stripe, Europe, ADN, and we have a plethora of payment gateways.
Right.
Each customer can be put into each payment gateway based on their region or whatever the payment gateway that the our customer decides to put the end customer in.
How do you account for the finance team using their tool, which is an accounting software that they've already comfortable with, and not come to Togai to manage the other for large customers, right? The payment flow for not.
So the same integration that we have with payment gateway, we have with most of the accounting softwares as well. So if this customer is tagged to a payment gateway, then the self-serve model kicks in. If this customer is tagged to an accounting ledger, then as and when the ledger gets an entry in their system, we listen to those webhook events and update the wallet balance for these customers. So either it can be a wallet balance recharge or an invoice payment. Both entries will be recorded here, and the corresponding invoice amount is netted off based on the payment amount that we receive.
One thing is when data comes in, we support multiple data connections. But when data has to go out, there is also an ability for the same feature. For example, a wallet feature can speak to multiple different data destinations, right? Or third-party software. It can be a payment gateway, it can be an accounting software. So essentially everything is interoperable and becomes plug and playable without having to reinvent what customers are doing.
Correct. This is why we have built the most powerful integration system, where we have the ability to solve for any operational challenges that you have, right? For example, now a customer is in a self-serve model and they incrementally grow and they become a mid-sized customer where this credit management and the upfront payment is not relevant anymore, and they go to a post-paid model. The existing system will work without any change, right? It is just a matter of configuring whether this customer should have a payment gateway associated to them or an account ledger associated to them. Anyway, the account ledger will be manually created in their system. They just have to tag this customer with the ledger read.
Got it. That's great, right? So we looked at multiple different problems and how to solve for them using Togai in this episode of the Whiteboard.